So the Detroit Lions are coming off one of their most successful stretches in recent memory. Even though last season ended in such brutal, heartbreaking fashion, after all the success, there's still this weird hesitancy from national media to fully buy in. We've heard all the noise this offseason, losing Ben Johnson to the Bears head coaching job, Aaron Glenn taking the Jets head coaching position, Frank Ragnow retiring early, and suddenly people want to pump the brakes on a team that just went 15-2 and earned the NFC's #1 seed. I'm not sure what more Detroit needs to do to earn the benefit of the doubt at this point. They've been building the right way for years now, inside and out, and it's finally paying off. And even with all the changes, the foundation is still intact. So today, I'm going to break down exactly where this roster stands, what the new coaching setup means, and why the 2025-26 Lions might actually be more balanced, more consistent, and maybe even better than they were a year ago. Let's start with the offensive line because that's where it all begins for Detroit. Last year, this unit was a monster, #1 in PFF's grading. Even with Frank Ragnow's retirement in June and the departure of Kevin Zeitler to Tennessee, Detroit didn't flinch. They had a plan. They drafted Tate Ratledge out of Georgia in the second round with the 57th overall pick, a 3-year starter with over 1,900 career snaps at right guard in the SEC, and he's potentially stepping into a center competition with Graham Glasnow. He could still play guard, but he's kind of been like cross-training so far in camp. They want him to be more versatile, and Georgia's offense literally got more efficient with him on the field last year. They also added Miles Frazier for depth, so while the interior line might look different, the talent is still there. They're not just patching holes, they're rebuilding with intent. And it's not like this group suddenly fell off without Ragnow. You've still got arguably the best right tackle in football in Penny Sewell. The left side remains stable with Taylor Decker, and the backfield will continue to be one of the most effective units in the league. Jahmyr Gibbs has shown so much promise in his young career. Jared Goff is once again going to have a lot of time to operate back there, and Ben Johnson's exit doesn't change the fact that this offense is built on physical dominance at the line of scrimmage. And John Morton, as the new offensive coordinator, is inheriting a top 3 line with real depth and versatility. Now, obviously, losing Ben Johnson does hurt. There's no other way to put it. He's now the head coach of the Chicago Bears, and his creativity, especially in the red zone and on third downs, was a big reason for Detroit's offensive success. But if we're being honest, that same creativity sometimes worked against them in some cases. In their divisional playoff loss to Washington, they got a little too cute in big moments. Trick plays, odd sequencing, and passing up safe points for high variance plays all played a role in their 45-31 playoff exit. The hope is that John Morton can keep the core philosophy intact while adding a bit more steadiness in the big moments. Sometimes less is more. On the defensive side, Aiden Hutchinson is still that dude. What he was doing before his injury in 2024 was flat out ridiculous. In just 5 games, he had 7.5 sacks and 45 pressures before suffering a broken tibia and fibula in week 6. But the big news? He's fully cleared and ready to go for 2025. The pace he was at the beginning of last year is probably not sustainable over a 17-game season, but it shows just how dominant he can be when healthy. And what makes this even scarier for opposing offenses is that the Lions went out and added to the secondary. DJ Reed signed a 3-year, $48 million deal, joining 2024 draftees Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw to bring much-needed man coverage ability to a group that was banged up and inconsistent last year. You also get Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph back in the mix, and suddenly the back end looks a lot faster, a lot more versatile, and way more dangerous. Jack Campbell is also turning into a solid player at linebacker. He's entering his 3rd year, and after nearly 2 full seasons of playing behind Alex Anzalone, he's locked into a full-time role. He led the team with 121 tackles in 2024 and played every defensive snap from week 11 through the playoffs. It's clear he's going to be a cornerstone of this defense for years to come. So between Hutchinson up front, Campbell in the middle, and a reloaded secondary, this defense quietly has the potential to be top 10 in the league. The pieces are in place. It's just a matter of staying healthy and letting these young guys continue to grow together. Now, let's talk about the skill group, because that's where Detroit's taking another step forward. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams were the focal points of the receiving corps last season, but they didn't account for 80% of their receiving yards. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, I'm just joking. So, what does Brad Holmes do? He goes out and aggressively moves up in the 3rd round to take Isaac TeSlaa. He's a big-bodied wideout out of Arkansas who quietly averaged 19.5 yards per catch in the SEC. He ran a 4.43 at the combine and fits the exact profile Detroit likes. He's physical, he's smart, he's an efficient route runner, and a guy who can stretch the field vertically. He actually had no drops, not one in college, which is pretty insane. I know he wasn't like targeted a lot and kind of didn't have big production, but a lot of that stemmed from poor quarterback play, so that's all going to be better at the NFL level, so it's going to be interesting to see how he can adapt. No one's expecting him to be a wide receiver 1, but in a room that already features St. Brown, Jamison, Williams, Sam Laporta, and a stable of backs who can catch. TeSlaa adds a needed dimension as a vertical threat and physical presence in contested catch situations. So even though Detroit gave up a lot to move up and get this guy, I think it could be well worth it. It's going to be interesting to see how the whole thing plays out and how he develops. And that's kind of the thing about this front office. They never panic, they don't chase names, they build a board, they trust their process, and they make moves that align with the identity they're trying to build. It's what led them to draft Penei Sewell, it's how they unearthed St. Brown in the 4th round, and it's the reason this roster continues to get deeper without sacrificing culture or cohesion. Now, I know the big concern for some people is the coaching turnover. Losing your OC Ben Johnson to the Bears and DC and Aaron Glenn to the Jets in the same offseason is never easy, but the hires Detroit made were both intentional and logical, at least in my opinion. They promoted John Morton to offensive coordinator, and they brought in Kelvin Shepard as defensive coordinator to maintain continuity while bringing in fresh perspectives without blowing everything up. And honestly, the biggest reason to still feel confident in this team isn't a specific coordinator, it's Dan Campbell. He's the tone setter, he's the guy that built the culture from the ground up and got everyone to buy in. And if there's any coach in football who can weather a little instability on the staff, it's him. The other thing we need to talk about is health. Last year, Detroit got absolutely hammered by injuries. Every position group took hits. Hutchinson goes down in week 6. The secondary gets reshuffled weekly. The offensive line loses bodies, and yet they still went 15-2 and earned the number 1 seed. That speaks to depth, obviously, yes, but also to resiliency. Not every team can respond like that. Detroit didn't make excuses. They just kept fighting, and that grit is exactly why people should be higher on this team, not more skeptical. So now we fast forward to 2025-26, and the expectations from the fans are real, and rightfully so. This team won back-to-back divisional titles, they've won playoff games, they've knocked off good teams, and now it's about taking the final step. Jared Goff has proven he can play winning football in this system. Gibbs is a weapon, Hutchinson is healthy and ready to go, the offensive line is still elite, the defense is improving, and the locker room leadership from Goff to Campbell to Hutch is strong. The biggest key though, it's finished. That is like the big word right now. That should be the philosophy. Everything needs to revolve around the word finish. That was the only thing missing last season. Finish drives, finish games, finish the season. Detroit's in a bright spot. They're not underdogs anymore, and they're not sneaking up on anybody, but that's okay. This roster can handle the expectations. They've got the trench play, they've got the quarterback, and they've got one of the most complete top to bottom rosters in the NFC. Will they miss Ben Johnson? Of course they will, but the drop-off may not be as big as people think with John Morton taking over. The offensive foundation is still there, and with some smarter game management late in games, they might even improve in key situations. So let the national media doubt, let them push the panic button after one playoff loss. The truth is, this is still one of the most well-built, stable, and dangerous teams in football. They've already gone from laughingstock to contender. Now it's about taking the final leap, so don't be surprised if Detroit ends 2025 as one of the last teams standing. That's really all I have to say for this video though. Let me know in the comments below how you're feeling about this team if you're a Lions fan. And also, if there was anything that you didn't like that they did in the offseason and one thing that you did like. I know the coaching staff turnover is going to be a big thing, but I just believe in this team. I think they're one of the best rosters in all of football, and they definitely have the talent to get it done. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point in the video, and if you enjoyed and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe because your support truly does mean the world. And let me know what you would like to see next as well. And until then, I will see you all later.